It's Miguel with Keys Real Estate. We're going to be going over the Arbitration Agreement, and it's also known as the C.A.R form ARB. Now, if you've never seen the small paragraph at the end of the real estate contract that talks about giving up your right to a jury trial, this form is that concept on its own page. The arbitration agreement is where both parties, buyer, seller, or sometimes an agent, agrees to resolve a dispute privately through binding arbitration instead of going to court. Now let's break down what that actually means. Arbitration of disputes. The first section says that any dispute or claim arising out of the real estate transaction, whether it's a purchase, listing, or buyer representation agreement, will be decided by neutral, binding arbitration instead of a lawsuit. So what does that mean? It means if something goes sideways, like a contract disagreement, undisclosed issue, or commission dispute, instead of hiring lawyers and going to court, a neutral third-party arbitrator, usually retired judge or experienced attorney, hears both sides and makes a legal binding decision. This helps save time, money, and stress. And it keeps everything private. No court records, no public mess, right? So section 1 is just the agents included. The form also allows agents to be included in the arbitration, but only if they agree in writing. So if you're a broker or agent and a client sues you for something related to the deal, you can opt into arbitration too, as long as you consent in writing. Now, section 1 continues which rules apply. Here's an important line. It says that enforcement of arbitration will follow the Federal Arbitration Act, not the California one. That's a big deal because the federal law is generally faster and more consistent, which is why most brokers and attorneys prefer it. Now, exclusion. Now, not everything can be arbitrated. This section lists what's excluded, things like a probate case, small claims or bankruptcy, unlawful detainers, right, evictions, foreclosures or enforcement of deed and trust. Basically, anything that legally has to go through the court system stays there. Arbitration is for civil disputes about contracts and money, not for things like evictions or foreclosures. Now, in section 3, preservation of actions, this part clarifies that if one side files something in court just to preserve a legal right, like filing before a statute of limitations expires or recording a lease pendants notice of pending actions, that doesn't mean they're waived their right to arbitration. So you can still file something pro securo in court and still move forward with arbitration later. Now, section 4, this reinstates that we mentioned earlier. Agents can be part of the arbitration. They just have to agree in writing. So this is the section where they do that. Section 5 is the big warning. This is the most important part, and it's in bold for a reason, right? It says, by initially below, you're agreeing to give up your right to go to court and have a jury trial. You are also limiting your rights to discover and appeal unless specifically provided. That means once an arbitrator decides, that's final. You can't go back later and say, I changed my mind, let's appeal this. No. Once they make a decision, it's final. But you can still be compelled to arbitration under California law if you've signed this form. So, this section is all about consent and understanding. That's why you're seeing initials for buyers, sellers, and agents at the bottom to show everyone knowingly agreed. So, that is the C.A.R form ARB. The arbitration agreement, it's short but incredibly powerful. It can save months of legal headaches and thousands in court fees. If you're working with a buyer or seller, make sure they understand what they're signing. If not, that is malpractice. They're not giving up the right entirely. They're just choosing a faster, private, and binding path for resolution. I'm Miguel Marte with Keys Real Estate, breaking down California contracts one page at a time so you can stay compliant, clear, and confident in every deal. Peace out.